Throughout its second life, resurrected from the ashes, the MGB Roadster has seen many changes, all thanks to the craftsmanship and handiwork and a vision from its owner, Andy Van Sciak.
It was originally white, and then it was painted black when you took it to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. The primer yellow was actually on it before the black.
Oh, okay.
That was the original stuff that went on it. It was zinc chromate primer. That was over all the raw body work. And I painted it black so I could see what I had to work on before I put another color on it.
Originally, he wanted a Shelby Cobra, but back in the day he couldn't afford one. So when he found the MGB, he went to modify it in the most delicate way, without making it look like the butchered modifieds he had seen in passing.
When it first ran under its own power, how would you describe its driving characteristics? When you have a big engine inside of a little car, such as an MGB.
Right, I had to kind of shoot from the hip a little bit. I went with big sway bars on both ends and soft springs in the front. And I got 90-10 shocks on the front. It drives great, corners great. They're not supposed to corner with 90-10 shocks, but it does, so there you go. I think they're Carreras.
What made you choose red? Always a favorite color?
Somebody gave me the paint. I had a customer that gave me a gallon of red chroma, DuPont chroma base. So that's what went on it.
Seen from every angle in person, the tail fins leave an unforgettable impression of 1950s vibes.
The side fins, they were from a Ford Fairlane.
Two of them.
Two of them.
Yeah, we had them in the junkyard in North Carolina, and I got a right one off a car that was hitting the left side, and the left one off a car that was hitting the right side. I mean, they were a matched pair, but they came off two different cars. Both 4 doors, by the way. So no 2 doors were harmed in the process. So.
What I also found interesting was the fact that you managed to put in the hood of a 1972 Ford Torino GT.
Mm-hmm. And that hood was in the scrap pile at the junkyard with one corner crunched. And I cut it down and grafted it into that because I wanted that scoop. And when I put the dual 4s on it, I needed a little more clearance, so then I got the teardrop.
Take a look in the goodie department, and you will find the mill that makes things happen. A 440 cubic inch Chrysler V8. A mechanical heartbeat of Detroit iron that delivers 500 horsepower with an 11-to-1 compression ratio.
It was from a 67 Dodge Polara RT.
Yeah, be a Cornet RT.
Cornet, sorry.
I don't think they put them in, might have put them in a few police cars, but I don't think so. I think they were all 350 horses.
And then that engine went into a 72 Roadrunner, and then that same engine went into the MGB afterwards.
One look inside, and you might say the instrument panel was the greatest thing since the invention of the Reese's Cup. The bucket seats are real honest leather, which came from a C4 generation Corvette. And they give you the kind of support that makes you feel as though you are built into the car, depending on your height. The dash came from a couple of 1956 Ford Fairlanes. He took one with the hump for the driver's side and another for the passenger side to give it that dual dash look. A style, he said, he favored highly when modifying the MGB.
And the steering wheel came from 1950s racing hydroplane speedboat. And
according to what the guy told me, I saw it. I went to his boat repair shop and I saw it on the wall behind his service desk. I asked him what he wanted for it. He told me it wasn't for sale. And I proceeded to tell him about the car, and he's a big Mopar guy. He pulled it off the wall and handed it to me. He said, "Go for it." So I got it for free from a stranger, actually. He owned a 70 GTX, and he was really excited to hear about this thing being big block Mopar powered. So he gave me the steering wheel.
And when did you get it?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
It's probably around 2010 or something.
Oh, okay. So about around in the previous decade.
Yeah,
there.
I had a Camaro wheel on it for several years. I was at a car show and I saw a 48 Chrysler, big ugly four-door thing, and it had that horn button. And I got on eBay and found me one because I saw it. I said, "I like that. I want that." So it's just, it's fun to make a car out of stuff.
Yeah. And what arguably stands out the most, whenever I look at the car too, is incorporating in the cooler designs, like with the little hideaway, like pieces of wood for covers.
Yeah.
What inspiration came from putting that design in there?
They came in a leisure van, and every time you go to a cruise in, you got to take a cooler with you. I said, why not build it in? So build it in, put a drain in it, so I never have to yank it out of there. The ice just melts and drips out onto the car. The other side's got the bottom cut out of it. It's a battery access on the right side. That's where the battery's at. That's what covers it up. So.
The MGB Modify also comes with power steering with four-wheel disc brakes from a Chevy S10 in the front, while the rears are from a Ford Explorer with the rear end suspension from a Ford V8 Maverick. The MGB also features a front sway bar from a 78 Oldsmobile Cutlass diesel station wagon.
When I first built the car, and we were in North Carolina with it, and the only time it's been pulled over by law enforcement. I wasn't doing anything wrong. This guy pulls up on me, hits blue lights. I'm like, oh boy, what's this about? He said, I just wanted a good look at this thing. I hadn't done anything wrong. He just wanted to look at the car and ask me questions about it. So that was pretty cool.
For as long as you met a lot of people in passing, with the MGB Modify, what stood out to people the most when they look at the car itself? Is it just the tail fin designs, the engine that's
Everybody likes the styling, but usually if they're admiring the styling, I open the hood and I get they get quite excited. How'd you put that in there? Because it's large in stature. It's not like a stroked out small block. It's a full size, RB engine. It's a big motor, and it fills up the hood. So that's what I wanted. I just wanted the ooh-ah factor of the big motor. The car would probably actually be more pleasant to drive if it had a small block Chevy in it. Then it'd be just like everybody else. So. Mine, I got no category. I took it to a show one time, only because I was there. Got like last place because they put me in a stock category. The only thing stock on that car is the door handles and the windshield frame. Pretty much everything else has been changed.
How would you choose to identify the MGB itself in a class, since it's far from stock or kit?
Well, it's not a kit. I've worked in several junkyards. I had access to a whole bunch of cool old parts. And I wanted to make my own car, so I did. And there really isn't a class for that. I mean, it's, by true definition, it's a hot rod, but you think of a hot rod, you think of a pre-war car. And, it's not a muscle car because that's late 60s, early 70s. I mean, that one's a 76, but that body style came out in 62. So, I don't know. I wanted to be unique, and I accomplished that. Parts were based on what I could get. It wasn't like not until the last, 10, 15 years, I guess, when I could, go on eBay and get like the steering wheel thing, horn button, but it was basically whatever was available to me that I used. And the sketch I made was before I ever even started on it. And it was remarkable how close it came out. The original sketch had the fins on it, but they weren't nearly as pretty as this set of fins. This set of fins is nicer than the ones that I had vision. And tail lights, of course, those were new in the box 58 Plymouth Fury tail lights. And I had originally had vertical, like tall, skinny football-shaped tail lights. And I went home and grabbed a piece of raw sheet metal and basically rolled myself like a high C can and spot welded it, put it all in there until I made it fit. I was bound and determined I wanted those tail lights, so I just didn't stop until I got them. Then a guy at a car show come up to me and asking me what it was, and I was tormenting him. I wouldn't tell him. And finally I told him. I said, well, started life as an MGB. And the guy kind of slapped himself in the face and he said, I own 3 MGBs. How did I not know this? How did I not recognize this car? I was pretty proud of myself for that. I mean, when you own one, you should be able to spot them, The door handles are stock and the windshield and actually the headlight placements are original too. Headlight bulbs and rings are original. Because I like that look. It's a generic, early 50, 60 sport car look. I mean, the Cobra's got the same kind of headlight placements. So.
Incorporated into the design was a black top, which seems to be about as close to a convertible top. Where'd you find that exactly?
Yeah, that's just a cover. It keeps the rain out of it. If you get stuck in the rain, you put that on and go have a beer somewhere. You can't really drive with that on there. And when I put the fins on there, it made it impossible to do a original top, which I never had anyways. But had I purchased one, I could have put it on there. But I deleted the side glasses and all in it when I did it. Deleted the vent windows. That's why the windshield frame doesn't look stock, because the vent windows are gone. I deleted those and the side glass. The only glass is the windshield. And you have to drive it with the top down, because that's what it is.
And back to the interior, what was nice too is knowing just how well the seats, the buckets, of course coming from a C4 generation Corvette, were matted in there very well and comfortably too, which almost seems as if that's what the car came with originally, as if it feels like that, just how molded
they're
in there.
comfortable. I always like those. I've had 14 C4s and I always liked their seats. I originally used Mustang 2 seats, which were like very basic, tiny little seats. And when I went to put the Corvette seats in there, I needed like 4 more inches of clearance, so I had to cut the tunnel out and redo the tunnel to make those fit. And I wanted them, once again, you want it bad enough, you'll work for it. So that's how they happen. The tracks are removed from them, they're bolted directly to the floor. They're not adjustable. They fit me, so that's all there is.
Yeah.
A car with move the firewall back 14 inches to accommodate the big block, and with all that, you can't. If you're over 5'7", you probably can't drive the car. But I can drive it. If it was any shorter in there, I probably couldn't get in it either. is what it is. That's what happens when you want a big motor and a little car. You make sacrifices. And when I put the vet seats in there, that took up a little more space, so that shortened it up even more. So instead of cutting the back bulkhead out, which I probably could have done, that was going to involve a whole bunch of cutting and slicing and dicing. But that might have made it a little nicer, and I probably could have made them adjustable. But if I left them on the tracks, they'd be too high, and your head would stick up above the windshield. So once again, you do what you got to do.
And what else you've made work is incorporating those shift knobs in the frame. Yeah, for the seat belts. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a speed shop that went out of business, and they scrapped a whole pallet of 3-speed conversion shifters. And I'm like, God, I gotta be able to do something with these, and so I made my seat belt mounts out of them. And I found that I had lap belts in it originally, and I really wanted shoulder straps, so I didn't want to weld anything to my chrome roll bar, so I did that.
What I've also noticed, you managed to incorporate a GPS inside the interior, like in relation to the, all the gauges and stuff.
Yeah, I had a cable drive speedometer in it originally. It was off by a mile. I mean, it was like 15 miles an hour off. And you get these old GPS units, you can pick them up for nothing. And they do a great job on speed. They're the best replacement for a speedometer ever. There's no cable, no nothing, just power. That's all you got to run to them. So that works nice.
Yeah.
You could use a newer one and have your directions and all that crap on there, but I don't. Whenever I drive this car, I know where I'm going, so I don't need a real GPS.
And the more I think about the GPS thing in there, it's as if it was an upgraded feature on the MGB, as if it were fresh out of the factory. But it's funny because whenever you look,
came with one.
Yeah. Imagine that. Maybe in another.
I was building it today. I would take one of the GPS clocks. They're like $30, and I would have taken one of them and put it in the original chrome housing from the speedometer that I had. Was actually out of a '76 or so Chevy dump truck. But the needle was just all over the map, and you had no idea how fast you were going in.
Mm-hmm.
And the cable was precarious because I couldn't. The way I got the frame designed underneath, there was nowhere to tuck it. I had to run it directly underneath the floor, which is the bottom of the car. There's nothing. I mean, it's got frame rails, but the floor is welded to the bottom of the frame rails. So I had to do everything I could to get the people low in the car. So, the cable was just a pain. Plastic PETA pain. But yeah, I like the electronic one better. But they didn't have the ones you could buy there, the little tiny ones. You just hook those up the same way, shoot power to them. They tell you how fast they're going.
If there was another thing you wanted to add to the design of the car itself, what would come to mind?
Probably some kind of chrome grille. It's got that big open mouth look, which is Cobra-esque, so it's okay. A chrome grille would be nice. I'm not that ambitious anymore. I had a lot more energy back in 88 when I started building that thing.
It could just be that this modified MGB is the silkiest bomb ever nestled between four wheels. A home modification with old school elegance that far exceeds its original form. It has a clean and honest look from the taillights to the grille. Sporting along with it Cooper Cobra Radial GT tires.
Put all the eggs in one basket because I love the 50s and I love the chrome, and there's a lot more chrome on this car than there is on an MGB. A lot of good stuff has gone in the crusher. I'll tell you what, I've seen it so much over the years. I just wanted to rescue a little bit of it, and as fate would have it, my one guy that I worked for in North Carolina had a real thing for cars of the 50s, and he wouldn't crush them, no matter what was left of them. And the cars I got the fins off of, there was nothing left but the fins, one fin on each car. I think we finally did crush those two. But they're both four-door Fairlanes, and there's 51 Pontiacs in there. The guy had done a project, and he had 3 parts cars. He jumped those, and I utilized, there's quite a few 51 Pontiac pieces on it, too. With the foam on the top of the doors where the windows used to be, that's 51 Pontiac. And then in the back, there's 2 speaker grills that were actually the clock housing that had a speaker behind it for the radio was in the middle of the dash. I used 2 of those.
If you come across somebody who's interested in wanting to modify, well, whether it be an MGB of that year model or a Fiero, what would be your advice to them?
I don't know. Unless you really want to be committed to a project. I mean, I kept a log on this thing when I was building it, and when I hit, I think it was 800 hours, I threw the book away. I said, I don't want to know anymore. But, you know, you get, a lot of that was trial and error, but I took a lot of parts home that ended up going back to the junkyard. It was fortunate for me that, you know, most of the yards I worked for were owned by people that enjoyed the progress on this project, so, you know, I got a lot of my parts for no cost.